This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre as we start a brand new week. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, now that we've heard Rahul at CII and Narendra Modi at the FICCI Ladies Organisation, today, whose vision is better for India's? Rahul or Modi's? That's the big political story today, one that's also seen a fierce online war as well between supporters of the Congress and the BJP. Well, it was Narendra Modi's turn today, all eyes on his address to the ladies of FICCI in Delhi, where he spoke about women's issues, about female feticide, the empowerment of women, repeatedly calling them mothers and sisters. He also wove in a barb aimed at Rahul Gandhi.
His party president recently endorsed his popularity.
सर्वाधिक लोकप्रिय नेता यदि कोई है तो वह गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री यशस्वी नरेंद्र भाई हैं।
Narendra Modi is trying to improve acceptability.
शायद ये मेरा पहला प्रवचन ऐसा है। आप क्यों हंस रहे हैं?
Active corporate bodies over the last 1 week have raised the spectre of a Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi presidential form of contest. On Thursday, Rahul Gandhi underlined the crisis India faces.
It's going to come on a horse, sun's going to be in the background, there's a billion people waiting, he's coming in, and everything's going to be nice. No, it's not going to work like that.
In reply, Narendra Modi today belted out self-praise, his rule, his solutions, and a dig at Rahul Gandhi.
हमारे कांग्रेस के मित्रों ने जो गड्ढे किए हैं वो गड्ढे भरने का काम किया है। अहमदाबाद में हमारे यहां एक जसू बहन के पिज्जा बहुत पॉपुलर है। आज क्या होगा? मीडिया के लोग अहमदाबाद जाएंगे, वो ढूंढेंगे ये जसू बहन भी वो कलावती जैसा तो नहीं है।
The platform was offered by a corporate body, and Narendra Modi unleashed the politician in him to create and change his image. For long, he has been criticized for being a corporate darling, for favoring corporates. So, amidst an audience packed with women entrepreneurs, Narendra Modi presented the socialist in him, how he has worked for the Aam Aadmi, how he has promoted entrepreneurship among women, especially at the grassroots level. Women entrepreneurship, empowerment and equality were the themes he bid for a nationwide women.
Alright, so we're asking whose vision is better for India, Rahul's or Modi's? That's our big question. You can also take part in that debate via a second screen app on your iOS or Android devices, where you can vote on the question you'd like to ask our panel tonight. Well, we have a terrific panel this evening because that's what we are going to talk about for the next 60 minutes. First joining us tonight is BJP member Kiran Kher, tonight from Mumbai. We have the BJP's new spokesperson, Captain Abhimanyu, with us here in the studio. Also joining us is senior lawyer Dushyant Dave here in Delhi. We'll be joined shortly by other panelists as well. Let me ask Kiran Kher first. Kiran, what was your big takeaway from Modi's speech today?
Well, Nidhi, all of you people are talking about his speech at the FICCI Ladies, but nobody's mentioning his fantastic speech at Think India, which was followed shortly after he finished at 1:30 with FICCI Ladies at 4 o'clock in the evening.
Why was the FICCI Ladies one not fantastic too?
No, it was fantastic, but I mean they were so diverse, both of them. For him to speak extempore on two such completely diverse topics. One, he was addressing women who were mostly, some of them, wives of entrepreneurs, women from upper class India, and he was addressing that and focused completely on women empowerment, on trying to bring into focus the have-nots, the women who have been have-nots in India and who've made fast strides for self-empowerment. And on the other hand, he spoke about government or governance, less government and more governance, which was absolutely brilliant. Both were extempore. So the takeaway when I heard those speeches was that, my God, somebody tweeted this, I saw it on one of the channels, saying that if this man we do not vote for him in 2014, the country will never forgive us. And I agreed with him completely.
Dushyant Dave, your first impressions today on Mr. Modi's two speeches. Kiran Kher is right. Why only restrict ourselves to one? And particularly when we're comparing him to Rahul Gandhi just a few days earlier.
See, there is no denying the fact that Mr. Modi is a great speaker. But I personally feel, and I think the nation has to understand that Mr. Modi has to be taken with a bag full of salt. Mr. Modi is very good in theories, but he is extremely poor in practice. He talks about governance. All these people who do not live in Gujarat or who do not visit Gujarat as I do, almost 5 days a month, perhaps don't know that governance in Gujarat is equally bad as it is in other parts of the country. Corruption is rampant and lawlessness is pretty high. So Mr. Modi, I don't think can really provide an answer. My own take is that country is today caught, unfortunately, between the devil in the deep sea. I don't see any hope in Mr. Rahul Gandhi either. But that does not detract from the position that Mr. Modi is no answer to our problems, particularly because of the polarizing figure that Mr. Modi is.
Okay, so you believe he's more about packaging, that he's a good orator, he speaks well, but you feel that when you scratch the surface, the governance story and the development story is much more complex. In short, Mr. Dave.
Oh my God, this is not true, Nidhi. This is not true.
I'll just come back to you, Kiran. I'll just come to you. Yeah.
Let me tell you one thing, that this country is an extremely complex country. Mr. Modi is appealing to the rich and the higher middle classes and perhaps the middle classes. He has nothing to tell the poor classes. I have never seen him address these kind of meetings, addressing the Dalits or the Muslims or other, challenged people in this country. He takes these platforms which are extremely well packaged, which are extremely well marketed by his team of brilliant sellers. But I personally feel that Mr. Modi has lot to answer. If his governance is good, why did he fail as a chief minister in 2002? One. And secondly, why did he allow, just a minute, why did he allow series of fake encounters between 2002 and 2007? Both were his platforms to victory.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that because I also do first want to look at today's speech in particular. Kiran Kher wants to respond to you, then I'll bring everyone else in.
Yes, I do. Because firstly he says that he's got a great team of marketers. What's stopping a great team of marketing being given to other leaders? It is that the leader has no intrinsic value. Nothing and nobody can market him. How many such poor rallies has Mr. Dave attended himself, being a posh lawyer of the Supreme Court from Delhi? He might be visiting for his legal purposes 5 times a month Gujarat. The HDFC people have told me there is no lawlessness. They have branches in every village over there. And they said they are so happy because there's never been a law and order problem there. So I think there must have been 1 or 2 instances which are there everywhere. After all, he can't stand guard on the roads. But compared to the rest of the country and Delhi where he himself lives, there is no comparison.
Okay,
I just take strong objection.
Before we break down today's speech, I just want to ask Mr. Surjit Bhalla, who also joins us, well-known economist. Dr. Bhalla, what did you make of Modi's speeches today? And again, that comparison with Rahul Gandhi. I just wanted first the overview. When you look at the two of them and their contrasting styles, who comes off as having a vision, firstly, for India?
Well, on several parameters, actually. And if you take the two speeches together, Mr. Modi had geared his speech to the audience. I thought it was a brilliant stroke, well thought out, of addressing the entire issue of women's empowerment at the FICCI morning session. And in the afternoon, he showed that he is a person who has experience and, if you will, has dealt with problems. He's got facts on his fingertips. And, one big point that I want to make is that if, let us say for a moment, that Modi had become chief minister in 2004. Let's just take for as an example. Obviously, we can't ignore the reality of what happened, but people will say this is a leader. And in contrast to Rahul Gandhi, where people will say this is not a leader. So I think in terms of leadership qualities, in terms of experience, in terms of offering a vision of what person will do. When I looked at Rahul Gandhi and watched his speech, I had no idea what he would do once he gets into office. I have a very good idea of what Modi will do once he gets into office, for the simple reason that we've got 15 years. And 3 times he's been elected. And one last thing, the previous commentator had said something about the poor and all the rest of it. He's been re-elected thrice. So therefore, the last I heard, there were poor people in Gujarat also. So they are clearly voting for him. So I think this whole platitudes thing about he's not for the poor, he's not for this, the next election, thankfully, will not be run on platitudes. And I, for one, am really looking forward to the election next year.
Okay, before I get to Priyanka in Mumbai, let me just take that back to Dushyant Dave, because Dushyant, what then, as Sujit Bhara says, people say he's a leader. When I look at him, I think of him as a leader. How do you then define leadership? Because clearly that is what we're arguing about today. When we talk and debate about Narendra Modi, it comes down to that.
Let me answer it by quoting Dr. Ambedkar, who spoke in the Constituent Assembly in 1948. And this is exactly true for Mr. Modi, and the nation has to really stand guard. And he said, quoting John Stuart Mill, that he said that all those who are interested in maintenance of democracy, namely not to lay their liberties at the feet of even a great man, or to trust him with powers which enable him to distort institutions. He says, for in India, bhakti, or what may be called path of devotion, plays a part in politics unequaled in magnitude by part in politics of any other country in the world. And he says bhakti in religion may be a road to salvation, but in politics, bhakti or hero worshipping is a sure road to degradation and eventual dictatorship. Mr. Modi amplifies this, let me tell you that. In Gujarat, nobody can speak against Mr. Modi. Even if industrialists are not happy, and I know a large number of industrialists who are not happy with him, they won't dare speak against Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi personifies an extremely different and a difficult line of politics, and country has to be aware of that.
Okay, let me just for a moment turn to today's speech in particular, because there's been a lot that is being said today about his speech to women in particular. And Priyanka, you're the district general secretary of the Youth Congress there in Mumbai, and you've been online all day where this virtual war has broken out about the way people have interpreted this. Those criticizing him say that he was patronizing, referring to women only as mothers and sisters, and not breaking away from that. Others say he was just being polite and using traditional Indian metaphors, and what's wrong with that?
No, I just felt that women have moved ahead in life, and Indian women especially. I had written an article as well on women entrepreneurship, and considering he was addressing a crowd which was to women who are doing amazingly well in their respective fields, he could have looked beyond the Ma, Behan and sister kind of a topic or speech, is what I felt, and what came across to me, considering I'm an entrepreneur myself. I felt that he could have
because this is the first time we've actually heard him on a subject like this. So you feel it was disappointing that he basically stuck to stereotypes. That's what you think?
Absolutely. He stuck to a stereotype and he went on speaking about it throughout the length of his speech.
I think we counted 17 times. Ranjana Kumari is here as well on that. Did you also feel that he was patronizing when it came to the issue of women?
Well, I think there was nothing new about the language, which is, when you talk about empowerment of women and politics of empowerment of women, instead of doing politics to empower women, there is a difference between the two. When you're talking about politics of empowerment of women, then you're talking about, Reverend mother is motherhood, and then the talking about woman being sacrificing women, and all those symbols and all those, as you said, that in Indian context. And but then you forget about, and also feel very sad about how the women, children are not being allowed to be born. I mean, there's sex selection going on in Gujarat and rest of the country as much. But one would have liked to hear about how many hospitals have been sealed, how many doctors have been punished, how effective the system is put in place in Gujarat, which is controlling female feticide. One would have liked, if when he addressed the corporate, he invited them to invest in Gujarat, and he of course promised them all kinds of facilities that he would be offering. He should have invited the women entrepreneur to come and invest, so they will get more credit benefits, they will get more tax concessions, they would get better infrastructure facilities, and also to, only 2% women use credit in Gujarat. So I think if I really start talking about the facts, for example, if you talk about mother, it's the same mother who was eating last and the least and suffering anemia. So there is a very high level of maternal mortality in the country as well as in Gujarat.
And the sex ratio figures have actually become worse in the last 10 years.
Absolutely. Violence against women is no less than anywhere else than in Gujarat. So I think what we want to hear from somebody who is really competing to be coming as the the top leadership of the country, if somebody is competing for
more concrete steps.
Absolutely, something. And also one more thing, Nidhi, I just wanted to add that when you look at the way all the examples were given, it's the same stereotype as woman making the roti and burning her hand, and woman buying saris. I mean, like, what do you want to present a woman? You were talking to women entrepreneurs, women who have broken the glass ceiling already, women who are already achievers.
The comment on the sari, I'm going to come to Kiran Kher on that, but I'll ask Captain Abhimanyu first. I mean, a lot of women were talking about that it's very stereotypical. You're saying, if a woman is buying a sari, it's on sale, but then she hears about a fire at her house, she'll drop that sari and, save her child and save her house. Was this a speech from the last century when it was referring to women?
Look, everyone lives by a philosophy in life, and Narendra Modi actually epitomizes the person who stands for Indian culture, who believes in Indian culture and values. And a man like him, in fact, when coming to Delhi and addressing the women entrepreneurs of FICCI, he is addressing those business tycoon women and connecting them to the last person, the women in the villages, and connecting them to the labor women. And he's telling the concrete stories of success in Gujarat. He's telling about Seva, he's telling about Lijjat Papad, he's telling about the Amul movement. He's connecting.
All three came much before Mr. Modi came to power in Gujarat. It's nothing which. You see, Lijjat Papad is not where women have got stuck with. Women are going far and beyond in their enterprise.
He didn't claim the credit. He was honest in suggesting that all this which has been done is not been done by my own self or by my own government. Yes, he understands the role of the government is just as a catalyst, as a facilitator. But while respecting women, he was never short of it. And he was addressing them as mind behind. This is our Indian culture. This is how we address. How else would you like the women to be addressed?
Listen to me.
How else? Please suggest to me.
He emphasized.
We're not just mothers and sisters.
How else would you like
the women to be addressed? We're not just mothers and sisters.
Yeah, he emphasized.
This is how he perceives them to be.
But why?
This is what his perception is.
No,
you are free to perceive any way you
want.
want.
What about modern Indian women? What about women who's emerging women?
No, not mothers and sisters.
But they are not. If you are not mother, then you are not a woman. You are not a human being.
Of course you are.
That's what. No, that's that means somewhere you don't want to look at woman as a person. That is why.
I see a mother and a sister in you.
That is why in Gujarat politics, out of 182 state legislatures, you have only 16 women state legislatures.
It's not only in Gujarat.
Then to cry about.
Gujarat is one state in the country where women feel the safest in the whole country.
No, but why should you not then give women equal status?
Where women can
why should you then not
give 4 or 5 in the morning?
One of the comments. Yeah, okay. No, I understand because everyone's going to throw figures at each other. And before I go to Sanjay Jha, to Kiran Kher, that Kiran, one of the big criticisms of Mr. Modi today, apart and to his credit, he did acknowledge that there is a very skewed sex ratio in Gujarat. He said that right at the beginning, and that he was shocked.
What has been done about it? We wanted to hear
exactly.
That. We wanted to hear for a man. We know that this is the situation in the country. But what is Gujarat doing to change it?
There was also outrage that for a man who just months earlier was talking about a 50 crore girlfriend to then talk about respecting women. It just came up as a bit of a surprise. Kiran Kher.
I don't think I'd like to comment on what was said about Sunanda. She's a friend of mine and I didn't like Sunanda being so upset either. I would like to say that this whole thing that they're discussing, that why did he call them Behno and Matao? What did he want him to call them? When you address in Hindi a crowd, you say Bhaiyo or Behno. I mean, is it wrong to call a man Bhai then? Even if they are modern and you're speaking in Hindi, that's the way they address them.
You don't think the sari thing was a bit of a stereotype, Kiran? Come on, that you know.
No, I don't, Nidhi. You shop, I shop, all the ladies on this show shop.
So
I thought it was very heartwarming. 1 minute. I thought it was very much less. I thought it was very heartwarming, very funny, and he brought it in as a lighter thing, and then went into a serious thing that even though she's doing that, she still got that self-sacrificing thing of a mother, which a man doesn't have. The complexity of being a woman, where there is shringar, where there is sacrifice.
In the name of sacrifice, women have been exploited enough in the country. In the name of women sacrificing, why only women are expected to sacrifice? And what is the sacrifice when they don't get enough to eat? So they suffer anemia. Why it is sacrifice that they get burned for dowry? Why it is sacrifice that they are beaten up at home? Why it is sacrifice? So what kind of sacrifice are you expecting? How many more centuries should women of India sacrifice? No, how many?
1 minute, he never said that. He never said that.
No.
Where are you going? With
no, but what is the sacrificing Indian women? I mean, what kind of image are you sticking to?
Okay, let me just ask. Let me just ask Sanjay.
No, let me finish.
Yeah.
She can't attack me like that and get away with it.
Go ahead, finish.
I want to say one thing here. Sacrifice is what you and I do for our children, even though we are working modern women, which maybe the men in the house don't do.
No, but we
give them
expect
time.
the same sacrifice from the fathers too.
It is the feeling of matritva in us.
We expect the same sacrifice from the fathers too. That is the trouble.
Captain Abhimanyu says we're turning this into a gender debate, and it is a little bit of a gender debate today because it's the first time we heard Mr. Modi addressing an audience of women like this.
Made into a gender debate, which is very silly because he just addressed them in Hindi.
Which is why I want to ask Sanjay and Priyanka. Sanjay, has this whole thing about the terminology that Mr. Modi used today with women, has it been blown out of proportion? You know, because those who want to attack Mr. Modi will clutch at anything to attack him, you know, and keep on criticizing him. Has this been blown out of proportion, or do you expect better language from a future potential leader?
He has not abused
Nidhi, in today's discussion, I think perhaps somewhere we are missing the woods for the trees, and I'll tell you why. If you watch Mr. Modi over the last couple of months, what you're witnessing is a private road show where he's trying to send a message to the Bharatiya Janata Party that you better take me seriously, I get all the attention, I'm your prime ministerial candidate. The second point, he's also been reading these opinion polls very carefully, and he's found that he's not very popular where the category of women is concerned. So this is very calibrated positioning, and he's got every right to do whatever he's doing to grab attention and to win favors with the electorate. But the critical point is twofold. I noticed in his example today of concern for women, his solicitude, his anxiety for their welfare, as well as governance that he talked about. I would like to ask him only one question. Where was your governance? Where was your real concern for protecting the lives of innocent women when many were raped and brutally murdered in 2002 riots? The fact that even today, it's not that an apology will help. It's not that the BJP will still tell me, right now I can see Kiran Kher fuming and fretting, saying, why are you bringing 2002 up? But my dear friends, let me tell you, have we become such a dysfunctional democracy that just because 10 years have passed, we should ignore the death of 2,000 Indians? That's my question. And I think Mr. Modi fails to answer that question. I think he dodges it. I think the critical issue is, it's not just on the sex ratio. Kiran Kher, let me tell you, Gujarat is conspicuous for actually having worsening sex ratios compared to all the other states in India. I think you need to look at that comparison very carefully. It's not just about malnourishment. And also the third fact, that end of day, where women are concerned in Gujarat, the way he commented on malnutrition by talking about their, they being very beauty conscious, it showed you an attitude. It's a mental state, and I don't think that can change overnight. This is positioning for electoral gains. I don't see anything beyond cosmetics.
Sanjay, I'm going to ask you about the criticism of Rahul Gandhi as well in just a moment.
Every time they bring 2,000.
Surjit Bhalla wanted to make a point. Kiran, 1 second. Surjit Bhalla wanted to come in on that. Yes, Mr. Bhalla.
They want to underline it and make sure it stays alive. I think.
1 second. I'd like to ask Surjit Bhalla to. Yes.
Yeah. You know, what everybody seems to have missed out, and I'm quite surprised, especially the women, is that in his speech, he said, he went out of his way to state that he did not think that the role of the woman was in the home. If ever there was a female empowerment speech by a major politician, this was it. Have you heard anybody else say that in India, whether Congress or the BJP,
I'm
that
sorry,
the woman's role was not in the home?
Mr. Bhalla,
What more?
For heaven's sake.
I think as an economist,
for heaven's sake, it's the UPA that's moved the women's reservation bill. What are we talking about?
Let them all pounce on them.
No, let me ask Mr. Bhalla that, how come that, when you're giving examples of a woman who's not supposed to be just taken as a homemaker, then you are giving examples of women who's just making roti at home, who's just a mother, who's just trying to sacrifice everything for the child. I mean, what kind of example, how is it different from woman who's an entrepreneur who's sitting in that room and expecting to hear about what kind of Gujarat state, how is Gujarat state different from other states in the country in terms of any empowerment indicator, whether it is decision making, whether it is nutrition, whether it is, female, as you know that we have failed in MDG in terms of maternal mortality rate. How is Gujarat different from that? How that, what kind of example is Gujarat under Modi's leadership presenting to the nation about different.
Surjit Bhalla knows the figures. Surjit Bhalla knows the figures that the number of anemic women is up in Gujarat. Malnutrition numbers are high. The maternal mortality is high. The sex ratio has actually become worse in the last 10 years. How do you then respond to Ranjana's criticism?
Okay. Let me just answer first with the sex ratio. There are many other states in the country which are much worse sex ratio. Punjab, Delhi is about the worst. Haryana is about the worst. Second, in all of these figures, what you have to look at is the change. And there will be several studies that have been done, more I am doing, in terms of looking at the change from 1999 to change 2011. And then we can assess how Modi has done or not done. By just looking at the absolute level of either maternal mortality or infant mortality, it tells you nothing. Second point that I want to emphasize, that what he said, I do not know, I'm pursuing this research, is that he mentioned that he had passed legislation in Gujarat for giving 50% representation to women. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, then it...
I think he's very much behind in that, Mr. Bhalla, because 3/4 of the country has already done that.
Ranjana, he gave the example of the governor of Gujarat.
But why only 16 the lady herself, why is she holding?
No, why
she's
only
holding
16?
It just because it's a BJP rule?
No, all the states have already... This is nothing unique.
And if you talk about the sex ratio, it is worse in Haryana. It is not only in Gujarat.
Gujarat is the last to do it. Let me tell you, Gujarat is the last to do it. 2/3 of the country have already given 50%.
Why is the governor holding it?
Well, that is between him and the governor.
Even when the act is not in place, Gujarat has implemented by providing reservations.
Why did he not give enough seats to women to contest for assembly elections?
They have done it even when the act is not in place.
How many seats did you give?
Even when the act is not in place, by providing incentives, by providing incentives to the women in panchayats.
Did the BJP give to women to contest in Gujarat?
Yes. Why only 16 MLAs out of 182?
No, you tell us
and between all the parties, what kind of a representation are you giving to women?
How many tickets were given to women by a Congress party?
Nitish Kumar
that's a problem across the board. Absolutely, he's right.
If you have to compare this, then why don't we do a national level
statistics sampling?
One second. I need to talk about Rahul Gandhi as well. Okay, and I'll come back to Dushyant Dave, because Dushyant, you said right at the beginning that you're not somebody who's a fan of Mr. Rahul Gandhi's style, nor are you a fan of Mr. Modi. Let's talk about Rahul Gandhi. Did he come across as too vague, abstract? What did he come across to you when you heard him speak at CII?
See, let's understand one thing very clearly. Mr. Bhalla is right when he says that Mr. Modi has huge experience. Nobody denies that. But Mr. Gandhi represents a political party. He doesn't represent a government. So you don't have to really, judge the two individuals with the same yardstick. But let me say one thing, that Mr. Modi came today to FICCI Women's Organization. He gave Tata's 10,000 crore interest-free loan for Nano. He could have said that you, the women entrepreneurs, I offer you 20,000 crore interest-free loan. Come and set up industry in my state. Mr. Modi, I can assure you, has never visited Seva. And even if he has victimized Seva
No, but
more than
one
once.
second. I'll disagree with you
More
on
than
Rahul
once.
Gandhi because, he's a potential future leader of this country. And he is a he's an important political figure. We still don't know what he really thinks on concrete issues. We've got a kind of vague overall idea from his CII speech. But the fact is, it was a speech that had no specifics, that didn't touch on important issues like corruption, the state of the economy, inflation. These are things people want to hear him on. He was as philosophical and vague as ever.
I agree. There is no doubt about the fact, and I will put it in a slightly layman's language. Both Mr. Modi and Mr. Gandhi, ये घोड़े पर चढ़कर आ रहे हैं, and Mr. Modi has to pull his lagam, and Mr. Gandhi has to whip his horse. I don't think that either of them can really provide any solution. Mr. Gandhi is undoubtedly extremely naive about public life. Unfortunately, is not advised by good band of people. For example, his stand on environmental issues, his anti-industry stand on many issues has really, raised serious doubts in the minds of people like me. So I personally feel that Mr. Gandhi certainly is not our future. And fortunately for us, Mr. Gandhi also does not want to be our future. He wants to be behind the scene. And that's something phenomenally, nice about him, that he does not want to take power in his own hands. I don't think we should criticize him for that. We should respect him that he wants to control the party and not the government. I think that's the end of the matter.
Many would say that's power without responsibility, a criticism that his mother often faces as well. And Kiran Kher, I'll just come to you. I want to take this to the Congress representatives and to Priyanka in particular, who's the young Congress face here. Priyanka, that's a huge criticism that Rahul Gandhi faces. Dushyant Dave may say it's not fair to compare the two of them, but we are going to compare the two of them every day for the next 300 days or whenever the next election takes place. And yes, Mr. Rahul Gandhi doesn't come across, as someone who's sure of his ideas. At least Mr. Modi, seems to know what he's talking about, whether you agree with him or not.
No, Nidhi, I'd like to disagree. I think Rahul was pretty clear when he was speaking that he believed in inclusive development. He wanted the people at the CII to be a part of the development story of India. And he spoke about the youth. He spoke about a lot of ideas, most importantly being inclusive India, which we do not see happening in Gujarat. I strongly believe that.
Yeah, but Rahul Gandhi keeps talking about changing the system. He's been that system for 8 or 9 years. He's been part of that system. Can he afford to continue projecting himself as an outsider all the time? Realistically, Priyanka, come on. He can't keep he can't keep criticizing the system that he has a lot to say in.
No, why can't he criticize the system, considering he's a part of the system?
Because he can change it. He hasn't.
No, he is seeing some challenges in the system, and he's being very honest about the problems that the system is facing, and he'll work towards changing the system and his ideas and getting his vision in place.
Do you think he has a vision? Ranjana wanted to intervene.
Fortunately, we are not living in a debating club, and fortunately, nation building is not a debating club, and also we are not looking at presidential form of government where you are putting one against the other. These are two political parties with ideology, with whole galaxy of leadership, both sides. So, and also they both belong to certain ideological frameworks. So it's not really that we are talking about one person speaking in one forum or panel and deciding about the vision of the future of this nation. reservation. So that's at least fortunate part of it. But at the same time, I would say that we need to look at, when, as far as gender agenda is concerned and women's empowerment concerned, I think both sides. Certainly the acid test is women reservation bill, Nidhi. If women reservation bill was not passed by NDA when Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was the Prime Minister, it has not been passed by the UPA. So I think women's representation, unless you give women equal participation in decision making, as Mr. Modi also said, and also at some forums I have heard even Mr. Gandhi saying, I think unless they are going to talk about this concrete
neither really has a
things,
vision on that.
Well, I don't think they have
Captain
vision on
Abhimanyu,
that.
yes.
As far as the women representation bill is concerned, I can say that as BJP has done the most in it, and bringing in women to the politics. I'll tell you that it is only the BJP which is given reservation to women in their organization, right from the national level to the mandal level, that is a block level. Which other party has done that? So this is a step forward that BJP has taken in bringing women into politics, empowering them to participate in politics.
I don't think
and
putting some
any other party has done
ornamental,
that. No,
changing the situation
so
from
what
reality
else?
to ornaments is not going to work.
You're going to be comparing us with relatively. When the other parties have not done it, we have taken a
represent
step.
women in every level of
you-
How does
you-
it not depend on the women's
You're
reservation
going to spare
bill?
us.
How
This
many
is not a
of them are in
debate.
parliamentary board?
I want to take last comments because I know these last comments are going to take up a bit of time and be very contentious. How do we define a leader in India today? And let me ask Surjit Bhalla that first and then go to the rest of the panel. You know, you said you see a leader in Mr. Modi, and this is a question I asked earlier as well. How do you define a leader? Someone, you know, who can do good for the economy, or someone who can also bind this country together? Because with Mr. Modi, that big question mark remains, that will he divide this country further, or will he be able to unite this country?
Well, I sort of disagree with your premises. I mean, basically, it is not at all clear that the Congress has kept the country together. If it had, then they won't be so unpopular. So therefore, I think a leader is one who has demonstrated ability, at least in performance in the past, or with a vision for the future. Either way, it doesn't mean that inexperienced people cannot be leaders. But in Rahul's case, if he had said the following in his speech, that listen, Congress has ruled India for 56 of the last 66 years, and I think we should take responsibility for the sad stage that he is stating that India is in. He did not do that. A leader would have done that. A leader accepts responsibility, accepts blame. Even though he obviously was not born in 1947 when India got independence and when Congress started ruling. So therefore a leadership, you know, some idea of where you are, what you're going to do, and, you know, I'm afraid that he just didn't do that. Last point, you know, we are all under, or several of us are under this illusion that really this is not a presidential form and the parties will have the luxury of waiting for their PM announcement until after the election. Let me just make a forecast. I do not think either the middle class or the media will allow this to happen. So whether you like it or not, it is going to be a presidential prime ministerial race next year. And I think that's for the good of the country.
Kiran Kher, one of the things that again repeatedly comes up with Mr. Modi every time we talk about him is of course the riots. And one of the big criticisms is that he doesn't answer questions when he's asked on the riots.
Yes.
He walks away from them. And I'm saying that as someone who aspires to be a leader of this, future leader of this country, don't you think it's time that he just takes those questions head on and just answers them? Last, you know, at the India Today conclave, when he was asked that question, he didn't answer it. So do you think it's time he just takes those questions head on and puts those controversies to rest?
Nidhi, I have said this before on your show, the last time I appeared on it, that he has answered it the way he thinks right to. I think it must be extremely hurting and extremely aggravating for him to be asked this question again and again when not a shred of evidence by the Supreme Court or any other body has been found against him. And I think he just tends to shut it off and to go on to more positive things that he's doing. Whereas Rahul Gandhi, where he's concerned, my heart goes out to him. When I read the speech that he has given, it sounds very logical, very nice, very sweet, but unfortunately there is nothing invested in it. There is no experience there when he speaks it. It's like, aaj mera bachcha ye poem sunayega. You know, it's a bit like that, and he comes and he's being almost pushed to give these speeches. He has no experience, no grassroots level experience, yet every congressman worth his name is going to go to his grave screaming that Rahul Gandhi is the best thing for India. And when you say he doesn't want to stand for prime ministership, and it's a good thing, I also agree that it's not really such a good thing because it is power without accountability, which is a new trend that we are seeing here. They don't want to come out and speak when they need to speak on anything. How many times has Mrs. Gandhi or Rahul spoken about the 1984 riots? If you say that Mr. Gandhi is not, it happened on her husband's watch, didn't it? No question of nothing. एक बार सब ढक के गुरुद्वारे चले गए जी, हमने माफी मांग ली. ये क्या बात है? ऐसे तो मोदी जी ने कितने सारे टिकट्स दिए मुस्लिम्स को, सब जीत कर आए हैं. तो ये सब बातें हैं, बड़ी tilted है in favor of the Congress, and I don't agree with it. I don't want to compare one right with another, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And lastly, I would like to say that everybody who's a Modi baiter is writhing under the tyranny of his talent, because talent can be very cruel, because it is inborn and honed with experience, and he has that. Unfortunately, the Congress has no answers in leadership to that.
Okay, let me get Dushyant Dave first to give his closing remarks on that. Dushyant, are you being terrified by Mr. Modi's talents, which is why you are baiting him, as Kiran says?
But he's not a congressman.
No, he's not, but he's a critic.
No.
He's given a balanced critique of both.
Let me say, in fact, at one stage, Mr. Modi was a friend. So I have nothing personal against Mr. Modi or against Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Has happened,
I have certain fears.
That's why you don't like him anymore.
No, it's not that. It's the 2002 riots, if you want to know that. Okay? Now, forget that.
Please.
Let me tell you, let me answer you straight away. Recently, I went to argue a case, pro bono, for the Muslim community in the Gujarat High Court. The central government has a pre-matriculation scholarship scheme for minority children, which is about 18-20 crores of rupees of total take. State has to give 25%, which is about 5 crores. Center gives the remaining. Mr. Modi's government is opposing this scheme tooth and nail. And I went and argued before a 5-judge bench of the High Court, and we succeeded. The High Court said that the state government was completely wrong. Now this, unfortunately, in my view, raises very serious doubts about Mr. Modi's motives. I mean, let's understand one thing, that today world is witnessing the sectarian violence which is unparalleled, be it in Egypt, be it in Pakistan, be it in Syria, be it anywhere. I am really worried about future of India. Mr. Modi represents a soft Hindutva. He has never once spoken about the Muslims. He has never addressed the Muslims organizations. He has never gone to Muslim women and spoken to them. Mr. Modi forgets that they constitute almost 20% of our population.
Okay, so you're saying he needs to reach out in order to be a national level leader?
I don't agree there. I
don't
agree there.
Let me complete.
Let him finish. Let get Captain Abhimanyu here as well.
That is why he doesn't believe in reservation.
Let him complete. Yes.
Let me complete.
Yeah.
Let me complete. Look, listen, the difficulty is this, that between Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Modi, this country has to make a choice. Because if it doesn't, then we are going to really go to the regional parties, which is more destructive for body polity. So it is high time that Mr. Modi realizes that if he wants, it must be an inclusive politics. He talks, so that's something. Mr. Gandhi talks about inclusive economic growth. Yes, Kiran Kher is right when she says 1984 riots. I have condemned them all through. And I think Congress and late Rajiv Gandhi had a lot to answer. Nobody denies that.
Since I just have a few minutes left on closing comments, Captain Abhimanyu, the point that many make, like Dushyant Dave, is that if Mr. Modi wants to be that national leader, he needs to be more inclusive. He needs to reach out to these communities that at the moment do feel alienated from him.
I would like to tell Mr. Dave and Mr. Sanjay that since the 2002 riots, it is Mr. Modi who had been elected thrice successively in the Vidhan Sabha elections. And also there has not been a single incidence of riots in Gujarat. So this is an ample testimony of the secular credentials of Mr. Modi. Whereas we had seen riots in Uttar Pradesh, riots in Assam where Congress is in power, and the criminal riots happening so many places in the country. But Gujarat, we have not had a single criminal riot. At the same time, Mr. Modi, when he's meeting people, he doesn't differentiate that he's meeting Muslims or he's meeting Christians or he's meeting Hindus.
So why is Mr. Nitish Kumar so wary of him?
So this is Mr. Nitish Kumar needs to explain if he needs to do that. I mean, if he has any questions or if he has any doubts. But of course, I mean, it is within the NDA. We will definitely talk about if we need to. But I'm not.
Okay, well,
I'm not. I'm not.
At least I'm
not trying to position Mr. Modi for a post or something as such. But I'm just talking about in the context of Mr. Modi and Gujarat and 2002 riots, which Mr. Sanjay and Dave has talked about. Also, they should remember that there are skeletons in the cupboards of Congress Party. If they talk about 2002 riots, then they also must talk about the 1984 riots. I would like to bring a difference between the handling of these two riots. That after the 84 riots, Punjab was burning for more than 12-13 years. And it was the handling of Congress Party, that how it was handling those riots and that issue. The problem went on and on. But in 2002 riots, there's not been a single incident. So the handling of the whole issue as such,
you're saying it's been handled much better.
The good governance of Mr. Modi is a fact.
Okay, you say it's worked. Sanjay Jha, finally, does Mr. Rahul Gandhi really need to do a lot more in order to measure up as a leader, or is the Congress actually now just scared of projecting this as a Rahul versus Modi battle? No matter, the media is going to, but maybe the Congress doesn't want to. Certainly, Mr. Rahul Gandhi doesn't seem to want to.
Nidhi, before I answer your question, I need to correct Mr. Surjit Bhalla, who made a statement that the Congress has not been able to keep the country together. In fact, historically, facts prove completely otherwise. I would request Mr. Bhalla to look at the state of all countries post-1947 who are neighbors to India: Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Burma, Nepal. Take a look everywhere, Mr. Bhalla, you'll get your answers. Number two, responding to what Captain Abhimanyu said, that, he's won 3 elections. I think it is a tragedy and a mockery of Indian democracy that when a man and a number of people in his cabinet who shared very close proximity to him, like Maya Kodnani, like Amit Shah, serious accusations, they have been charged, they should have gone to jail. And you believe, and he says just because he won 3 elections. Well, let me tell you, Captain Singh, there is an Ehsan Jafri case which is still on, and Mr. Modi is still one of the accused in that case. But let me answer, Nidhi, your question on Rahul Gandhi. Let me answer your question on Rahul Gandhi. Anybody, a conventional politician, would have gone to that CII meeting and started by telling that, during our 9 years in governance, India's GDP was second to China despite a terrible economic situation internationally. Our per capita income doubled. We had the RTI. We had the direct benefits transfer. So you're saying he was unconventional. We had Aadhaar. What he did was what a leader of the future has to do. He said, listen, this is a country of 1.2 billion people. 30% of people are struggling to make it to the higher levels of income that will create a better life. It is time we focused on that governance. So let me tell you, in any society which is democratic, which needs to evolve, challenges will continue to happen. And that's the way a leader needs to talk. So I think for the people of India who have been hearing Mr. Modi talk of only development and nothing of inclusiveness, nothing of equity, and Rahul Gandhi who's talking about carrying 1.2 billion people, 70% living in villages, many below the poverty line. That's the leader India needs, and I think India will make that choice in 2015.
All right, I assure you, all of you, I'm out of time. Kiran Kher, I'm out of time, but I assure you, we have the next, like I said, we have the whole year to talk about this. I promise you, this is not the last Rahul versus Modi debate.
Don't forget the inflation.
We will talk about this.
Don't forget the
We will talk about this. I'm going sari shopping.
Don't forget the mess our economy
I'm going sari shopping, and I'm ending this debate right now.
Both of them need gender sensitization.
All right, I'm going to go shop for that sari and leave it at that. Thank you very much for all of you, to all of you for joining us tonight. That's it on the show this evening. Like I said, we will have many more of these debates in the next few months. We'll see you all tomorrow. Good night.